multi-state operator perspective, these are the companies that are in, California, Nevada, Arizona, Florida on the medical side, Michigan, and so forth. And so that's what that term means from MSO, multi-state operator. We're just considered vertically integrated, which means we have our own cultivation, our own production facilities, and our own retail storefronts.
But you are in Nevada as well, right?
In Nevada, in 2020, we decided to get licenses for cultivation, and we applied for the lotto system, which both Frank and I know wasn't very fair.
Right.
We won't get too deep into that, but we ended up with some production facilities, 8 licenses total in Battle Mountain, Nevada, which is Lander County, and we recently harvested our first outdoor grow.
Congratulations.
So we came at it sort of chicken. We didn't go real heavy at it because even though I'm familiar with the Colorado market, I'm not that familiar with the Nevada market. So coming in really strong, not knowing what the origin of that product was going to be without a storefront is a little bit, too aggressive. So we're feeling it out, meeting with people, figuring out how the system works here in Nevada. And I've learned a lot of caveats, how the MSOs have already made decisions that are affecting the market. And so what I'm speaking of is from what I'm learning is already happening, where people are eating the cost of cultivation and creating a lower number in order to produce another product from an extraction perspective. And anybody who's in the industry needs to start paying attention to that, because that's the first step of what's coming. Some people's, I'm not saying MSOs, their agenda is not necessarily the same agenda of other small business owners. And so small business owners, in my opinion, need to pay attention to the motions that the MSOs are doing, because they can definitely affect the market. And I already see that.
What advice would you give to young entrepreneur, a minority, ethnic minority, who wants to get into this business? Most of them believe they're locked out. What could you tell them from your experience? How could you encourage them?
I really do like the topic of social equity. I think that's important. Being a minority myself, to have an opportunity to thrive in any industry, but specifically an industry like cannabis, where a lot of us minorities are still locked up in jail. And so having the opportunity to get into this industry is a good thing. The only caveat that I currently see that I don't currently agree with is that the MSOs are coming in and, taking somebody from a social equity position and offering them a very low minority position. Well, what did you gain with that? And so I think that the bylaws and provisions should be written in a manner where the social equity owners should have a higher percentage and remain on the books for a longer period of time, because what I'm seeing is they're just trying to welcome you through the door and show you the back door in a short period of time. And so I haven't seen anything yet. I'm sure it's out there, but as of yet, I haven't seen anything that it looks like a really good mutual agreement from the social equity side of things so far.
So I got a buddy, some buddies now out of New Jersey, and they want a social equity license. Shout out to Bruce Harris and those guys, and they're having an issue with raising money because people are concerned that New Jersey doesn't have a cap on the licenses, so folks have steered away. Any advice you can give them on that?
Well, that's a real valid point. If you think about, the value of licenses is really designed by the constitutional laws that are written by that state. And if you think of the value of the licenses in Florida, they're $90 million, but you get 35 stores, production facility, cultivation, and so forth. And so I think those investors feel pretty well protected. And if you look at Oklahoma, for example, where they give out licenses to anybody, it's a very saturated market, they're not thriving. And so I see investors are going to be very careful, because we already have track records in our industry in specific states that have been flooded, and it's caused losses or over amounts of product on the market and no consumers. You know, I've seen it in states where, you know, medical card holders can't get a card very easily, and that just stifles, you know, the ability to sell to anybody because you can't attain a card. So it all goes back to how states write the laws. If they write the laws and somebody from a social equity perspective can attain a license in one of these states where there's either a moratorium or a limited number of licenses, it's going to create a lot of value. And I feel that that value will put a social equity or minority in a better position to negotiate.
Well, shout outs to Hazy Garden, Bruce Harris, Quay, his lovely wife, and the team. Keep pushing, you guys. You're going to find a funder to come in and support you. Keep putting pressure on the local elected officials, the mayor and city council, planning people to put a cap on the licenses. If you can do that, I think there'll be a lot more interest in folks coming to Atlantic City.
I agree. Frank, thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
What do you tell the people who've been in this business for 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, as we look down the road, ultimately within the next few years, it's going to be in every state. We don't know what the federal government's going to do. But regardless of what they're doing in the business, how do you encourage them?
Stores or something. And so they are answering to stockholders. And they are going to sell things at a loss to show, and they're looking to show growth through acquisitions. If they keep purchasing stores for $4 million that do $4 million a year in sales, well, then their quarterly report is going to look higher, and the stockholders are happy. So, with that said, if you stay too long and the market's getting saturated by either the marketplace or who's controlling the marketplace, you're going to lose value. So I feel that if you go into a new market, any of these new markets, and you can sustain some large numbers in 2 or 3 years, I feel that's the exit plan. There's X number of recreational cannabis sales, and so there's still 30 left. And
right.
You can take the cookie cutter model, for example, and continue to do that and hop from state to state to state that has favorable laws, and build it and sell it, build it and sell it. But in the end, it's going to be the MSO standing. And once federal legalization comes on board, if these MSOs can't find somebody to merge with for distribution reasons, they're going to be gone too. Because Amazon, Procter & Gamble, Philip Morris is going to eat them up. And so they're going to get their day, right? Yep. So I do feel that in the near future, the MSOs that are large will start making mergers for the purpose of distribution. In other words, give up a piece of their company to merge with somebody else that has the ability to provide better distribution, like Amazon, for example, because you can't do it any better than them. So I think that'll be the future of cannabis, and mom and pop shops will not exist once you have a model like cannabis on board. Like Amazon on board. There's not going to be any reason to leave your house.
Right.
So I think that's why it's really important to have an exit strategy on every venture that you come into in cannabis.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate you, man. Back to the music.